In this powerful episode of Becoming Bridge Builders, we explore the importance of history, the power of caring, and the need for inclusive leadership. Join us as John Suzuki delves into the Japanese American experience during World War II, sharing stories of resilience and self-empowerment from the internment camps. John says we must learn from our past to build to a better future. Discover the dangers of weaponizing diversity, equity, and inclusion, and learn how to create truly inclusive spaces. John shares his journey and the inspiration behind his book, American Grit. Tune in to discover the themes of blame, victimhood, fear, and the power of choice. Let us combat fear and division with education, understanding, and love.
Hey, you awesome folks! Thanks for taking this journey of discovery with your guide, Keith Haney. You're listening to the Becoming Bridge Builders podcast, your favorite podcast for everything from racial reconciliation to education innovation, justice reform, and leading change in the 21st century. This podcast is for people who love to be challenged with difficult topics, but want practical solutions to solve these challenging issues. Becoming Bridge Builders makes change possible. Each week on the podcast, Keith invites innovative thought leaders to share how they are building bridges in their area of expertise. You will hear breakthrough ideas and concepts that are changing the world. He's featuring guests who are best-selling authors, leaders at Microsoft, entrepreneurs, leading educators, professors, lawyers, and so many more. Listen in to learn how you can be the bridge to the change you are seeking.
My guest today is John Suzuki. In 2022, John left his 40-year career in technology and sales and evangelism with companies including IBM, Sun Microsystems, Verbo, and Expedia to pursue what he calls his third career of giving back. In 2023, John released his Amazon best-selling book, American Grit, to introduce the world to the remarkable people who refuse to succumb to victimhood after being incarcerated in America's concentration camps solely because of their race, and instead chose to empower themselves to achieve their dreams of a better life. It's an unforgettable and inspiring true story of love, courage, resilience, and the kinds of amazing things that we can accomplish. American Grit is John's effort to educate the world of this dark chapter of our history so concentration camps in America never happen again. In 2024, John created the Finding Better podcast to share real-life experiences in finding better in life, business, and the world. Finding the better they wanted in their lives so folks can learn from those experiences and apply these lessons to achieve the better the way they want in their own lives. We welcome John to the podcast. Well, John, welcome to the podcast. How you doing today?
Hey, good, Keith. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so glad to have you on and talk about
Yeah,
this important topic.
yeah. Well, thank you for having me, for sure. Thank you, thank
Yeah,
you.
we don't often go back, and I love history. I'm a history buff, but I don't.
hmm
I think so many people have just lost sight of history. So I'm glad we're having this conversation.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, and history forgotten or history not taught is history repeated.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, yeah,
And we're pretty close to repeating it, but
yeah.
yeah. But we'll get to that. Let's get to know you a little bit better. So, give me the
Okay.
best piece of advice you've ever received.
I got two. Can I do two?
Sure.
Because I couldn't. Okay, so one of them was a saying that I learned a long time ago that says they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And it's all about people, and that care um, involves everybody. It involves your boss, it involves your subordinates, it involves your spouse, your friends, everything, everything, and everybody. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so the whole idea is not only to care, but to show that you care. Right? It's one
Yeah.
thing to say you care; it's another thing to show it. And I'll tell you when people really internalize that, and I've found in my own life that when I made that part of who I am, it changed things dramatically because now all of a sudden I'm not looking for other people to care about me first. I just care, right? I
Right.
mean, I care about folks, and and the other thing, in fact, I have a poster of him on the wall with Martin Luther King, when he says, "Judge a person not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." And and I learned that a long, long time ago. I was around when he was around,
Okay.
and that those two things have really shaped my life, in a big way. And I think it's especially important these days, given everything that's going on with DEI, and just all the good in a lot of ways, hard in other ways. But where the world is right now, I think that's important.
It's so funny you mentioned that. I was just talking to a guest recently. We were talking about DEI, and
Hmm.
I think what we get wrong about DEI is when we take it and weaponize it against people
Yes,
versus taking it and
yes, that's
saying,
right.
how can I create a space where all of us, everybody feels included and that they have a place where they belong? When you try and do that,
Exactly.
it's different than let me use this as a way to cudgel my enemies.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I was having a conversation with the DEI expert. In fact, I'm having a conversation with him on my podcast later today. And he was one of the chiefs of DEI at Microsoft.
Okay.
And he recently wrote a book in terms of the practices of leaders, right? Of inclusive leaders. And we're having a conversation just like what you're talking about, Keith. And I asked him some questions because there's a balance, right? I mean, there's a good part, and then what you're talking about, there's a not so good part, especially when it's being weaponized. And he says, well, there's a lot of people out there who are practicing malpractice, in being an exclusive leader. And I said, Jonathan, I said, that's your next book.
Right.
His book right now is called The Daily Practices of Inclusive Leaders. His next book that I really want him to write are the daily malpractices, of inclusive leaders. And because it's like you say, it's, um, everything can be taken and presented in a whole host of different ways.
Right. Good
Yeah.
intentions used in inappropriate ways.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
I'm always curious, John, for people like you and I who've lived a little bit of a little bit of life, that we didn't get where we were without people in our lives who have served as role models for us and also mentors. And think
Oh
about
my
your
God,
journey.
yes.
Who are some of those people in your life who have done that for you?
Well, I'm a person who believes that, one of the shortcuts to being successful is to try to surround yourself with people who are better than you.
Yes.
And for me, the Lord Jesus, first and foremost, number one, right? I try to pattern my life around Him. In fact, it's pleasing Him that runs my life. It really does. And my wife is second. She's an amazing woman who has taught me love. And we all think we know love,
Yeah.
but I've been married for gosh, almost 40 years, and she has taught me love. She and my mom taught me love. And I'll tell you, the third person is somebody that, um, uh, just comes to my mind immediately. And he's my very first boss that I had when I was 13 years old, working on a bait receiver in the middle of King Harbor in Redondo Beach. And his name was Jim Beasley. And Jim was this curmudgeon of an old guy, just a cranky, mean. Every other word was the F bomb. And he hired me out in the middle of this harbor to work for him. And from Jim, I learned strength, uh, tough, hard as nails, he ate nails. Um, and he taught me hard work. And most importantly, he taught me loyalty. He taught me loyalty. This was a man who the harbor patrol, the police in the harbor were afraid of. And he wouldn't be, there were three times when the harbor patrol would come towards the bait barge, and Jim would come out with a shotgun and fire both barrels in the air, and they just turn their boat around and go the other way. But he knew what, he had a very, very clear sense of right and wrong, and he took care of his boys like me. And when the harbor, even when the harbor patrol came along, he protected us. He
Wow,
protected us.
that's so
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
John, I want to get to your book, but I also want to get the backstory because to write a book like this, there had to be some things that shaped your direction to write this, maybe inspired you. So, kind of tell us your personal story.
Okay, cool. So I'm Japanese American. Okay, and my dad and my mom are were Japanese Americans. They both passed away, and my dad actually fought during World War II for the United States against Japan, and which is an amazing story all of itself. And so I've always been a student of World War II. I've always been a student of the Japanese American experience of World War II. And one day I was at my mom's assisted living center, and there was this poster up in the elevator that said "Pilgrimage to Minidoka," and it was 2 months away. I didn't know what a pilgrimage was, and I didn't know what a Minidoka was, so I just blew it off. That crazy flyer showed up everywhere. I mean, 15 miles from my house, it just showed up in my life. And so the day before this pilgrimage to this, what it turned out to be was a pilgrimage to a former United States internment camp or a concentration camp where Japanese Americans were held during World War II, called Minidoka. And so the day before this pilgrimage, I find this flyer on my windshield, Keith, and I'm like, okay, I get it. I'll find out. And so I called the number and I said, you know what? I know it's happening tomorrow. I'm sure you're sold out. And the lady said, boy, this must be your lucky day. I just got a cancellation and it's yours if you want it. So the next day, I find myself on a 12-hour bus ride from Seattle to Twin Falls, Idaho. And, this was a time when I was traveling 3 weeks out of the month and I had two small kids. I was raising a family, and I didn't have time to do this. And so I find myself on this bus and everybody goes around the bus explaining why they're going. And everybody was there because of family ties to this camp. They get to me and I said, folks, I have no idea why I'm here. My parents were not interned here. I don't know. I just know that I'm supposed to be here. And I also know that I will know my reason on the bus ride home. And so we get there and we spend the first 2 days learning about the experience. And back then in 2008, there were a number of people who actually experienced the camps. And um, and it was on the third day, Keith, that we had a remembrance ceremony. And I discover this billboard, and this billboard has the names of over 1,000 men who volunteered out of that concentration camp in Idaho to fight and die for the United States Army, the same army that put them and their families in that camp to begin with. And I just looked at that and I'm like, what? Are you
Right.
kidding me? Right? Who would do that? And I knew because of of my learning about World War II about this Japanese American segregated war unit called the 442nd Regimental Combat Team. These guys volunteered to join the 442nd, and the 442nd went on to become the most decorated war unit in the history of the United States for its size and duration. And the man that I found and I wrote about was one of the most decorated war heroes in U.S. military history, and he volunteered out of the Minidoka concentration camp. His name was Shiro Kashino, and so I'm as I'm looking at this billboard, I realize, this is what I'm here for. And my original intent was to write a screenplay because I thought that the shortest distance between the Americans to the American psyche is through a major motion picture. And I
Exactly.
thought of Clint Eastwood. I thought this would be a rock. Oh my gosh, this would be a great movie for Clint Eastwood. And so that was 16 years ago. It took me 15 years to write the book, and at some point, I'm gonna get on my horse pretty soon and try to get to Clint Eastwood. And,
You better
and
hurry.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So if you or any of your audience knows a way to get to Clint Eastwood, please let me know. But it's an amazing story. It's just an amazing story. It's an amazing story of love. It's a love story. It's a war story. It's a story about self empowerment. It's a story of not being a victim and taking control over your own life and making the world better. It's an amazing, amazing, and it's all true. It's all true.
So, John, for those who don't know the history, because I don't remember ever in my years of studying history really learned about the concentration camps. I mean, you hear
Right.
about them. It's kind of like in the
Right.
background. It's like we don't talk about that part of American history. But
Hmm.
for those who don't know the history, what led to the concentration camp getting started in America?
Sure, sure. So let me just clarify something real quick, because I call them concentration camps because that's where they what they were. The American euphemism is relocation camps and internment camps.
Right.
These were by definition concentration camps. And I use that term out of no disrespect for what happened during the Holocaust, right? I call those concentration camps genocidal extermination camps.
Right.
I mean, that was an entirely different level of cruelty, and trying to wipe out an entire race, the entire Jewish race. And so, but what happened was that Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, right, and thrust the United States into war, and there was a real sense of fear along the West Coast and in Hawaii that the Japanese Imperial Navy was going to attack. And so and there was also an energy of envy, if you will, um, where the Japanese folks on the West Coast were very, very successful. They worked hard, they made their own farms, they started their own business, and there was a lot of energy that was being spent trying to figure out how to beat these guys and take over their farms and their businesses. And so there was a really dark energy that was happening, in addition to the legitimate fear that hit. And um, and so Franklin Delano Roosevelt, our president at the time, signed Executive Order 9066, and it authorized, just really, really quick, two sentences. It authorized the United States Army to evict and evacuate and incarcerate 120,000 people of Japanese ancestry, 2/3 of whom were Americans, and 50,000 of whom were babies and children. And it was said that if they look like the enemy, they must be the enemy.
Wow.
And so, I mean, tell me how a baby is an enemy. I mean, are you kidding me? But it was a wholesale, no, no. It was just you're going. So they collected all these people, they rounded up all these people, and threw them into these concentration camps. And these concentration camps weren't places like Disneyland. I mean, these were placed in the deserts and swamps in America where people aren't supposed to live. The temperatures got up well over 100 degrees, well below freezing. And it was the buildings were their housing was made out of lumber and tar paper. I mean, we don't even make tool shacks these days out
Right.
of lumber and tar paper. And in a lot of cases, there was no plumbing. It was terrible, and surrounded by barbed wire fence, guarded by American soldiers with machine guns. It was crazy, and so that's what happened. That's what happened, and they were it was completely involuntary. But if you were even a fraction of Japanese ancestry, you were ordered into these camps and you were incarcerated against your will.
Wow. As you wrote this book, American Grit, um, I'm sure you ran across some incredible stories. What story, and you think about in the book, that really stands out to you? Because I like what you said about not being a victim. Is there
Yeah.
a story that kind of encompasses your thought about we have to change the victimhood mentality.
Yes. Yeah, this whole book is about that, Keith. It is, I'll tell you, my book is 188 pages long, and it's a very I wrote it that way to be an easy read, to be as interesting as I could make it. And I decided to write it. It's nonfiction, right? It's a true story. But I decided to write it in a way where I followed the stories of two people, and I take the readers through the entire experience. Um, I met so many amazing people, hundreds of incredible people who had their own stories that are very much deserving to be told. But my problem was that if I wrote a book with everybody's stories, it would be a 2,000-page book,
Right.
and and so that's part of the reason why it took me so long, 15 years to write it. But the most powerful story is about the guys I told you about, because there was a lot of people. Here's the thing: you talk about victimhood. I am in the process of writing what I hope will be an accepted TEDx talk, and it's called "Reversing a Culture of Blame." And because blame leads to victimhood. When you blame people for your circumstances and you look around, everybody's blaming everybody and everything for whatever problems they're having in their life these days. When you blame something or somebody for your circumstances, you are giving your power away. You're basically saying, it's your fault. I'm going to blame you. It's not my fault. And so when you look at when I consider the experience of the camps, there were a lot of people who blamed the government, blamed white people, blamed their circumstances. There were even some people who committed suicide, and it's terrible. It's terrible, right? And this may be a little bit controversial, but they became their own victims.
Right.
They became victims of their circumstances, and that was their choice. These other men chose not to blame others. They chose to take control over their lives and to say, you know what? This life in a concentration camp is not the life I want my future family to live for the rest of their lives. We need to get out there and do something about this. And we need to go out there and prove our loyalty to the United. There's nothing they can do, right? There's nothing. I mean, you talk about having every opportunity to consider yourself a victim, but these guys said, "Hey, what can we do about this?" And they found, um, one day the United States Army came calling for volunteers, and they said, "This is our opportunity." So it was their choice, right? They could have said, "Nope, I'm not doing it. You put me and my family in here. Screw you guys. F off."
Right.
Right? And a lot of people did. But a bunch of these guys said, you know what? We're going to go out there and we're going to prove that we can be just as patriotic Americans as anybody else. And so they chose to take control over their own lives, and they went off and kicked butt. A lot of them died. A lot of them died. And the tragedy of it was that, when you lose a loved one in war, you become a Gold Star family, right?
Right.
And a contingent of Army soldiers comes to your home with an American flag and a gold star, and presents it to your family. Um, uh, these poor families were receiving their flags and gold stars while they were imprisoned by the army that was presenting them the flag and the gold star. I mean,
It's mind blowing.
it's like, what? And so, yeah, but that's a part of our history, and we it's not being taught. It's not being taught, and it's not being shared, and that's part of the reason why I'm out there doing this.
So being an African American, I know there's parts of our story that aren't being shared either. So I sympathize with you. But why do you think that is? Is it because the part of the history is so distasteful, we just want to ignore it? I mean, I'm just curious. What are your thoughts on why is it not being shared?
Yeah, you hear about the whitewashing of American history, right? And I don't know, because this is just such an important. There's so much about the African American and African experience that I know we're not being taught, because I talk to folks, and folks will tell me stories, and I'll go, what
Yeah,
what happened,
right.
right? And I think it's selective conditioning. And uh, you see what's happening in terms of this cancel culture, right? That's happening these days. And we're trying to make the Confederacy go away, right? We're taking down statues. And I get that they're hurtful, but you know what? That's part of who we are. It's part of our experience. It's part of what we went through. And if we if we're not out there talking about what happened during the Civil War, and what happened during World War II, and what happened in Germany with the Holocaust, it's going to happen again. And it may happen again anyway, which is my fear. But education, education and love, Keith. It's education and love,
Yeah.
and getting it out there, and helping people understand. um yeah, but I don't know why. I
Yeah,
don't know why.
I've wondered it myself, is why do we not talk honestly about history? Because I think like you said, it does help us not to repeat it. Because I see a lot of scary trends that are happening in society now. I'm going,
No doubt.
you're making the exact same mistakes that led our ancestors to the problems we ran into because we did not know. We don't know how to recognize the enemy. It's like
Yeah,
we're lifting up the wrong heroes. It's like that those
that's
are
right.
not the heroes we should be following.
Well, and one of the things I say a lot is, camps and concentration camps can happen again, right? I mean, they can happen again. I mean, and people ask me, John, really, they can happen again? I tell them, hey, listen, look, if you if you go back to 9/11, right? There was this energy of folks, misguided energy, who felt like all Muslims were terrorists, and we needed to round them up and put them away. Are you kidding me? Right? And then you fast forward to today, right? I was just listening to a news article earlier this morning that was talking about people who were of the belief that folks who have not been immunized, did not get the COVID vaccines, need to be separated from the rest of society and put someplace. That was this morning, Keith, right?
Right.
And then during COVID, there, round up the Chinese. I mean, holy cow. And then you look at what's happening on the campuses right now, and you know and these people, these folk, I mean, I get how bad and terrible this whole thing is, with Israel and with Palestine and all that stuff. But when there are chants of getting rid of all the Jews.
Yeah, from the river to the sea. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, that happened in Germany. And um so anyway, we've got to get in front of it. And education, and just helping people understand, and encouraging people to try to understand different perspectives. Try to understand the perspective on the other side of the table, because we live in such a world of fear and hate. And we need to bring back the opposite of fear is love. I keep bringing up that word, but it's all about love, right? And
Exactly.
and uh, and we just need to figure out how to stem this tide. And our political leaders aren't doing it. Our political leaders are trying to divide us every step of the way, right? And I just feel like we as people, because I'll tell you, Keith, I talk to you, everybody I speak with, there's not a single person that disagrees with the statement that we are being divided, right?
Exactly. No, I agree.
And there's not a single person who disagrees with my statement that says it's up to us. It's because our leaders aren't going to do it. It's up to us to create this renaissance, of heart, I call it, and make the world better, one person at a time.
Something you said about what happened with the encampments and what's happening with COVID and what happened with what's happening in the division now, it all comes down to one word, and you keep saying it over and over again. And I agree with you. It's fear. If we are
It's fear.
afraid of that thing, whatever that thing is, that person, that ideology, that belief, and we can't talk and communicate, we are destined to put our enemies in camps because we're
Hmm.
afraid of them. So you're right. It's got to be, how do we replace that fear with love? And being a believer, for me, that's where everything starts. It always starts with love.
It always starts with love. Everything is love.
Right.
Everything, and you're right. The if I were to describe um, the world in one with one word, that a predominating feeling, it's fear. It certainly isn't love. And so, and you see it and of course, fear sells,
Of
right?
course. Yeah.
Bad news sells. And that's part of it with social media and all the different places to get our information from, and so many different powers that are out there trying to influence how we think. It's really important that we understand where they're coming from, um, and uh, and understand who we are. We are loving beings. We are people who are put here to get along
Right.
and and love each other. And so, stemming that tide of fear, and helping people live better lives. It's one of those things where when when you live in a world of scarcity, it's an entirely different experience than when you live in a world of abundance,
Right.
right? And fear is you can equate fear to scarcity, if you will. And so if we think about things in terms of, what, there are opportunities out there for everybody here. There are opportunities out there for you to go out and build an amazing life, an incredible life. Let's do this together. Let's do this together, because when you help other people be better, I mean, you lift the world. So let's go lift the world.
Exactly. So I'm curious, John, what do you hope readers take away from reading your book?
What do I hope people, don't be a victim. Don't blame. It's your choice. Keith, people have a hard time when I tell them, listen, your life is the product of the choices that you've made. And people say, well, I couldn't choose my parents. Okay, I'll give you that. But you know what? Every day, tomorrow, your world tomorrow is going to be the product of the decisions that you make today. And who you are in the future is going to be the product of the decisions you make from now on. And everybody agrees with that. And so if you agree with that, then that same logic applies to your life today being the product of the decisions that you've made. So my point is to help people understand that your life is your choice. You can make your life better at this moment by making the right choices to make your life better. And so these people in the book, they chose not to be victims. They chose to take charge. You can do this too. You can do this too. And so my hope is that my book is not just a, excuse my French, but not just a what the heck book, or what my son, he read my book, when I was getting ready to publish it, and he came up to me and said, what the f, he said, did this really happen?
Yeah.
Right. And I said, yeah, Mike, it's all true. And we talked about it, and I said, the thing about it is, yes, the message is about really bad things that have happened in the past, but the broader message is, it's your choice. It's your choice what to do about bad circumstances. And there aren't very many worse circumstances than being thrown into a concentration camp in the middle of the desert.
Mm.
And so, I'm hoping that folks will be inspired by this story.
Yeah, I hope so too, because I think, like you said, as we talked about earlier, we need to know our history so we don't walk into those same. Like somebody said, you don't get people to walk into a prison voluntarily. You scare them into them. And, you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
how do we not scare ourselves into our next prison? So, yeah.
That's right. That's right. That's absolutely right. And folks like you know, with the podcast that you're doing, it's about hope. Giving people hope, giving people the power. We all have the power. We were born with love. We were born with power. We were born with a gift. Everybody has different superpowers. Get out there, work on it, choose to work on it. And you know what? I'll tell you something. One last thing I'll just say, Keith. In my life, I've learned since I was 13 years old working on the bait barge. Um, the harder I work, the luckier I get.
Yeah.
It's amazing how that happens. And don't be afraid to work because the more and I tell people also, if you're not succeeding, you're not failing enough.
Right. Right.
Right? Right?
Exactly.
I mean, just keep at it. Just keep at it and you will be successful.
Yeah. John, I'm always curious for my guests, especially as you have this book out, you're doing all kinds of things. What are you excited about in this season of your life?
What am I excited about? Um, you know, First of all, I'm excited about this stage of my life. I believe that we all have three careers. The first is to learn and go to school. The second is to earn a living for yourself and your family, and the third is to return and give back. And so I'm in my third career now. I've been blessed to be able to do this. And what really makes me happy and excited is, I think that we all share a common purpose, and that is to make the world better than the day we landed on it. And I believe that when we're done here, uh, and I'm facing our Creator, and He says, "Okay, what'd you do?" And I say, "Well, I did as much as I could to make the world a little bit better by helping people and helping folks love one another." I think that if I can say that, um, I'll be in good shape. And so uh, that I'm excited about. I'm excited about giving back. I'm excited to reach people, and that's what I'm doing, and that's what I've committed the rest of my life to.
That's amazing. As you wrap up our conversation, John, what key takeaways would you like our listeners to remember from our discussion today?
What key takeaways? Um, you're amazing. You are amazing. Okay, you Keith. I found myself at LAX, Los Angeles Airport, one day, just sitting, watching people go by, hundreds and hundreds of people going by. And I realized at that moment that there wasn't a single person that I was looking at who couldn't teach me something. There
Mm,
wasn't a single person who wasn't better at something than me, right?
right.
You're amazing. Every one of you is amazing. And you know, it's our amazingness is beaten out of us. It's constantly beaten out of us that we're not adequate enough. And the world, with again, with social media and with advertisements, everybody, you're not good enough, right? You have to buy my product, or you have to be like me, or look at me, you're not me, you're a loser. You're amazing. You have it in you. You have heart. You have the same 6 inches or 8 inches between your ears as every other person does. And the only question is, what are you going to do with it? And my encouragement is just start. If you want something better in your life, it is yours. You're amazing. You're loved. And get on with it.
There you go. I like that. So, John, where can people find American Grit and learn more about you?
Well, okay, good. So they can go to Amazon. Amazon, just search on American Grit and American Grit book. You can go to johnsuzuki.com and you can learn about my book and about me and about my podcast. My podcast is called Finding Better. And I just started it on January 1st. I've got almost 900 subscribers,
Wow.
and it's all about sharing experiences of how, because it's all about, you know the best way to learn is by other people's experiences, and for me, in terms of a shortcut. And so I don't talk about opinions. We don't talk about academics. We only talk about having been there and done that and finding better in our own lives. And that's what we talk about. So it's all experiential, and it's amazing. It's amazing the people that who are on my who are guests on my podcast. And I'd love to have you come on
I'd love to come
for
on.
sure.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
I would love to have you, Keith, because you have so much to offer the world, and we'll set it up for sure.
Sounds good, John. Well, thanks so much, John, for writing this book, because I just think that we just need to know these stories, as uncomfortable as they may be, but also as
Yeah.
inspiring as they can be for people who looked at their situation, who didn't accept it, but said, I'm made for more. God designed me
Yep.
for
Yep.
more. And
Exactly.
went out and
Exactly.
found out what that thing that God designed them to really do. So thank you
That's
for
exactly
sharing that
right.
story with us.
Well, thank you for having me. It was wonderful being here.
Do you know that most entrepreneurs hit a revenue ceiling and have no idea why? They're working harder, spending more money, running more ads, but revenue stays flat. My friend Dr. Noah St. John calls this the invisible break. He's giving our listeners a free revenue ceiling audit to help you see what's really holding you back. You'll get a free 30-day membership to NoahBot, giving you access to Dr. Noah's 30 years of experience to help you reach your next level. But hurry, because there's only 50 available this month. So if you're tired of being stuck at the same revenue level and want to finally break through, get your free revenue ceiling audit at drnoahvault.com in the affiliate link that'll be listed in the show notes.